Good afternoon, everyone. Right now it's 12 o'clock, a couple of minutes after
On
that.
February 26, 2025.
Hey, Jamie, what's going on?
Oh, hey.
How are you? And
Excellent.
the voice behind the camera, as always, Jamie. And one of the things that I really want to comment on is, before I even begin, I just want to say thank you to Mal and Jamie for being really kind people, especially in the last couple of weeks during a really crazy and tumultuous time where I really felt like I was hit over the head with a pile of bricks when I found out what was going on with Senator Bob Menendez. I've gotten over all of that, and we've had our first court hearing yesterday. So I want to take a few moments to explain why am I here. I am a relatively normal human being who did not set out to either be in litigation, which is a fancy word for court, nor did I set out to be some sort of a YouTube persona, which I am constantly being accused of trying to be. That is not what is going on here. And I speak this way because I want to reiterate that my spectrum of audience goes from my wife to Donald Trump and everyone in between. And the reason why I say that is because it is very important for me that people understand that I do not ask for them to like what I am saying. I simply ask them to stop trying to deny the facts that I present. And it has become apparent that it is very important for me to take my time and speak slowly so that everyone understands, why am I here? How on earth did a normal entrepreneur with 34 commercial properties in 2020 end up on YouTube talking about things like, why do I film YouTube videos? And I want to have someone ask me this question so that I can answer.
I would like to know why you are here, and then we can go into this.
I am here because my name is Dan Rieses, and I believe in mathematics and logic and science are far more important than the optics that is generated through a piece of paper that you get by giving an institution. And I say that because my weapon of choice in a non-violent fashion is YouTube. I say this with all sincerity that what I am filming here is virtually identical to the legal filings that I have to present in my various cases. The difference between this and those filings is that this actually gets disseminated.
It is the spoken word.
It is the spoken word, and it can be really looked at for generations to come. I can be dead and the information is there at
It really
all
preserves
times.
the time and who you are.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I just want to reiterate that I have tried writing thousands of letters and motions. Is that true?
This is true.
I have tried litigation, lawsuits, and going through the civil process. And there's nothing that works better than outing conspiracy and liars than this YouTube channel.
I agree.
And my goal is really not to put people in prison. My goal is to shine a spotlight on the... can you do me a favor, can you pass me that drink?
Yeah.
And in the process of this few seconds that we wait, I want to say that I'm about 30 pounds overweight. So I am not happy with being able to film right now. And on that note, I want to remind everyone that the last time I was this heavy, I was on Judge Judy. I was about 37 years old and maybe 36. And that was my first, pop a can of this booty sweat.
Yeah.
I am not a person who wants to be in court. I am trying to get out of court as soon as humanly possible. But the people that are going against me have simply made it impossible.
So I think what you're trying to say is you are here because...
I am here because I have to present testimony and evidence.
As to what has happened.
Right. And I am exhausted by saying the same exact thing
Over and over
again. So, for example, if anyone is wondering what my job is I am an entrepreneur and a real estate developer. But no one can do their job if they are being accused of owing millions of dollars
Right.
to people that I don't owe money to. It is extremely important. And once that's resolved, I'll make claims for my inability to do work during this time.
Right.
But it is laughable for someone who doesn't know modern business practices to simply ignore whether or not they believe that the liabilities and the debts that they owe are valid or not. They exist on paper and on record. So whatever successes that I want to have will be futile, since it can all be taken away
Right.
if I don't address the core of the issues.
Correct.
Which is lawsuits and things that I do not owe money to that I'm saddled with. And the real question is, why am I here? I am here not because I necessarily want to be, but because I really want to be. And I really want to be here because it is so important for everyone to understand that all we're dealing with is time. That is the only resource that's finite in the grand scheme of everything. Time is extremely finite, and I don't have the time to spend on more writings that are going to be shredded and thrown in the
Put under
garbage
the pile.
because yesterday's court date was so eye-opening to me that
It was.
after Judge Sherwood wrote a court order that led to Senator Bob Menendez being investigated, and him and the other co-conspirator, Fred Davies, who defrauded me, are all going to prison, Judge Sherwood genuinely, and he's a good guy, he genuinely said, "What court order?" when I mentioned, "Your Honor, if it wasn't until your court order." And that really scared me. And you know why, Jamie?
Tell me.
Because there is no possible way for me to culminate all the things that we have written and all the things that have happened
That's true.
in a coherent, concise fashion. And even in court, I am not able to speak without being interrupted. I am constantly told that I'm the one that interrupts, but in court, there's something called a record. And the record reflects testimony of people that are simply lying.
That is correct.
And what happens is, by muddying the record, I am forced to first clear the record before I can make any arguments.
Right.
That's the core of my frustration, is that the record is so muddied in court, and I'm not able to speak without being interrupted, that it is virtually impossible for me to get the facts that are needed to be presented. And that's on purpose. That's not like, I'm not here like crying about it. I know why it's being done. It's a strategic tactic
Right.
in any cognitive form of psychology, that basically, if you ignore and create misdirections, the person who's trying to articulate their argument simply will become frustrated because they're dealing with having to answer arbitrary questions that are invented in order to create walls of confusion. Now, that alone is confusing for most people. And I am not sorry for being as smart as I am anymore.
Well, now that we know why you're here,
Because
tell us what's next.
that's a really good question. I just want to address the why am I here a little bit further, because
Yeah.
my kids watch these videos, people that I respect watch these videos, people that, believe it or not, I care for some people's opinions, people who have proven themselves worthy of my time, limited quantity of humans, by the way, sadly enough. But in general, I want everyone to understand that it is impossible for me to have any form of income that is sustainable, long-term, or legally binding in taxable form, meaning that I retain the income, I pay the taxes on it, and I'm able to spend it, with judgments that are looming over me from crimes that I'm a victim of. So if the crimes are not recognized, then obviously my claims and my allegations are not going to be recognized.
Right.
So I have to literally, on YouTube, make an oral argument and explain to human beings whose job it is to investigate and look into it why they didn't do their job, how they didn't do their job, where they didn't do their job, and what to do right now. Now, these things are not something that I should be doing because we live in something called the United States of America. And I am awarded constitutional rights of government agencies to do the investigative work if and when a crime occurs. The matters that I discuss before you are not civil matters. They are criminal matters. But just like a tree that falls in the woods that no one can hear, therefore it does not make a sound, if law enforcement does not classify clearly criminal activity as criminal, then victims like myself are left completely helpless because the system is really designed to block the release of information that is counterproductive to a narrative which includes people that are in law enforcement, politics, or the judicial system taking taxpayer dollars and pretending to be neutral in the process. There is a whole altruistic process of raising your hand, swearing in, reminding people that you're an officer of the court, yet, Jamie...
It doesn't seem like there's a lot of solutions that are...
That's not true. I'll be...
What solutions have law enforcement provided to you during your whole ordeal?
No. I am not saying that for me, law enforcement, as a matter of fact, law enforcement has been counterproductive by continuously interfering in the process of releasing information by pretending to be some agencies that actually care. In reality, what is going on right now is that I am the voice of 300 million Americans. Amongst those people, there's about 10 to 15 million human beings that are persistently victims of fraud, or perhaps one time was enough and they got knocked out. I represent those people, okay? Those people are just like myself, but I'm really here representing my interests because it is impossible for me to have the motivation and the energy that's required to continuously speak the same thing. And that's where court really has a massive advantage for attorneys who understand the systemic process that is being unfolded. And essentially, it is very similar to a casino where the house always wins. And the reason why I say this is because...
What do you mean by what systemic process?
When a human being files a lawsuit pro se,
Yeah.
the people that he is expected to present his case in front of are the opposite of who he is. The judge is a lawyer.
Okay,
other lawyers are involved. There's nothing but lawyers in the court
Yeah.
except the human being who files it. So for myself, I treat this as game theory. And in game theory, you must attribute a coherent form of a narrative in a game to what is going on. So this is part of the Muddy Children puzzle. And if you're interested in that, you could look into it. But one of the things that I'm very keen on in this process right now is sticking just to the facts. That is extremely important. Notice that there's no movies on the board. I do not make mention that I'm #1 in the world in applied mathematics or game theory. I simply reference one game theory game as well as the case number that I am referring to and the judge that really is at the core of this because I trust him very much to make the right decisions based on the facts that I present. So in the upcoming videos, you're going to see me presenting testimony on behalf of myself. Now, normally that is not necessary to do since being a victim of a crime, one would think logically based on knowing the law and watching news articles and things fold out that there would be some government agency that would be interested in dealing with the crimes. But unfortunately, that's not the case here. It is completely on my shoulders.
Right. And it seems like you have to reiterate what
Jamie,
happened.
jump on, get on the screen right here. Come on. Let's go ahead and show the folks at home. Ask the question. You're like the Vanna White of YouTube. And you're ageless. I think
Thank you.
I think that it's very important that people recognize that feeling good inside really reflects a lot about the way you look good on the outside. And I really hope one day Mal comes on camera just for, like, so people can see. But I have a lot of respect for everything that she's done recently, and watching her do that job really gives me a lot of respect for you as well, because your job as a mother, your job as a single mother, as well as your job working for me is really, really hard. So I just wanted to say thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay?
Appreciate it.
And I really don't know how else to say that if we weren't doing this, we'd be sitting in an office writing pieces of paper that nobody would.
No one's reading.
So the fact that we can have like 10, 15 people look at this.
I agree. So I think that what's important is that Judge Sherwood needs you to put the links together. It's as if
Yeah.
people forgot. Everyone forgot.
Either they forgot or they're pretending.
Or they're ignoring.
Either way, do not worry. I will handle this just like I've
Exactly.
handled everything else. But essentially, I'm gonna have to find like a police cap or something like that. Do you know where I can get one?
I actually do.
You do?
I have an
So-
insider check.
You know, in honor of my boys, I have named these series of videos the Incognito Patriot, because essentially, if I'm able to prove my case correct and true, it would do really great things for millions of people
It
that would
would.
follow me,
I agree.
because it would really crack open the treasure trove of rights that human beings inherently have in the United States that they simply are stripped of by not having a law degree,
Yeah.
but not because they don't know it, but because there's a boys club where a lot of women are a part of, a boys club of
Yeah.
attorneys that really utilize everything they have in their disposal in order to keep people out of the truth of, hey, they don't even know what's going on.
Keep people out of the solution. They don't. They want to keep muddying the water.
Muddy children
So it
puzzle.
keeps them
So,
muddy.
yeah, lawyers, courts, without litigation and lawsuits, they don't have a job. So please remember that. So for anyone who doesn't understand that, by
I have a lot of complaints.
well, people like myself are used and manipulated since we refuse to
Well,
accept.
the legal justice system doesn't give pro se litigants the
Nobody-
same rights.
nobody
as
cares
the
about
right.
that.
But I'm
I
saying,
gotta
like,
be
they
honest with you.
actually,
Like,
they
even
bog
I know
us
nobody
down,
cares.
but they bog you down in procedural nuances instead of focusing on.
It's not just.
larger
It's not.
picture
It's not just that. It's not just that. That's
In
that's
your
all
cases,
true.
it's
But I'll
very
explain.
true.
One of the best things that Judge Sherwood said yesterday, and this is really important that everyone understands, is that my court cases have been completely affected by Judge Esther Salas and her close relationship with Bob Menendez. When Judge Sherwood mentioned that Judge Salas ruled correctly on something,
Yes.
and that my motion was better the second time, it really gave his hand away that lawyering is very important to him, that the facts are not as relevant as the way I present the facts.
Okay.
And that's really why do I film these YouTube videos, is because they're undeniable.
Right.
You can't deny them. They exist, and you need to understand some basic existentialism to understand that in order to accept reality, you must accept some basic facts. For example, if I'm on YouTube complaining about being fat, why am I drinking sugar water? And the answer is very simple.
I did think that when I handed it to you.
It is delicious,
I
and
was like,
it
"He's
is.
talking about weight."
It is very important that people understand that this is not the reason why they're fat. The reason why they're fat is because of their caloric intake is far more than what they burn. That being said, a huge part of weight gain and loss stems from the core ideology of happiness and being happy.
True.
So for me, I will attribute my massive amount of stress to being distracted of how I look physically, and all of a sudden you wake up with this massive gut and man boobs and all this stuff, and human beings utilize
Sorry.
other
Yes.
things to really deflect that they made horrible choices and gained weight. So it's just a matter of accepting that you're fat and really making some
I'm
changes.
saying I'm gonna change.
Right, but I'm not gonna, like, Arizona iced tea. But the reason why I mention it is because In order to even have this
We have
conversation,
things we like.
you must accept that it has 220 calories. The company, the government gives you this information. If you can't understand that that is a fact that is presented to you, then you have really no business in presenting any testimony in the real world, because you need to be able to distinguish between fact and fiction.
Okay.
And that's really what we're going to be doing. And I have exhausted all remedies
You have.
possible. So the only thing that's left is to film the content, present it, and then present it in court as evidence.
Exactly.
And that's what Judge Sherwood really did. He said, that's not how I do business. So I said, you know what, Your Honor, I paid very close attention to everything, so I'm going to follow your rules, and I'm going to literally create testimony that is both relevant, entertaining, and extremely powerful. And then that testimony will be used as the core evidence of my legal argument. How does that sound?
I am ready. Let's
Excellent.
do it.
Thank you so much. My name is Dan Reeses, and
And I'm
what you see
Jamie.
is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and I gotta go.